Hello, I'm toycat and welcome back to the video. So let's talk about one of the most awkward experiences of my life, and I figure why not use some gameplay to keep your eyes distracted if you just want to hear about this, because it is one of the things that I really didn't want to do on YouTube ever, but because so many people enjoyed my awkward toycat stories, and because I feel like there's a real value to awkward, you know, because most people when something bad happens, they either try to forget about it, or they try to blame it on the other person. And, you know, truth is sometimes accept the blame, accept that it's just, you know, being awkward or whatever, and then try to move on from it, maybe laugh at it 7 years down the line, like I'm doing today. So yeah, hopefully you learn from this, or maybe you just get to laugh, whatever it is. I hope you all enjoy the most awkward date I've ever been on, because it actually involves like my first real adult girlfriend, I guess. I have this theory that like at some point in your teenage years, 14, 15, 16, whatever it is, you know, girlfriends go from being like this pretend idea to like this real idea. So for instance, I had a girlfriend at age 8, but was it really a girlfriend? I mean, she was a girl and she was a friend, and she insisted on calling herself my girlfriend, and she tied my shoes for me, so that was nice. But I mean, is that really a relationship? I don't know for sure. Whereas at 16, obviously there are real adult implications. So anyway, the reason I say that is because this was my first like real, you know, relationship above the age of like, you know, like 12 or 13 or whatever. And yeah, because of that, there's a lot of inexperience that leads to what you're going through here. Because I met her through a friend, because you know, I recently started a new college where I only really knew a couple of people, and one of my friends was like, oh yeah, meet my new group of friends, and I'm like, wow, you made a whole group already, and part of this group is this girl, and you know, immediately when we start meeting, I'm like, oh hey, this, that, and she's like, ah, that, this, and it's like, wow, this, that, and that, this, they're so similar, and therefore we talk a lot more about this and that, and although there's some like, you know, weird stuff going on there, you know, we talk a lot, and there seems to be a lot in common. So during like free times, like, you know, she tries to make excuses to see me, and it's so on and so forth, because we just have like a spot that we hang out at, so we talk a lot over the next like week or two, and eventually she asked me, you know, like via Facebook Messenger or something, like, oh hey, would you like to, you know, hang out? And I'm like, sure. And she's like, what would you like to do? And I don't know what my idea was, but it was pretty bad. And she's like, how about we get coffee? And I'm like, ah, coffee, yeah, that is an adult as heck thing to do. So yeah, that's what we do instead. It's like, oh yeah, let's go grab a coffee. And it was a little bit, you know, like you know, normal conversation, a little bit weird. And then she mentions that she is, you know, her parents, they either are dead or they don't live in the country. Maybe both. Maybe they're dead outside the country. But basically, because she's effectively an orphan, she has her own flat that is paid for by the government, I think. I don't know. She didn't pay for the flat. It was just like paid for. It was done, and she therefore had some of her living expenses done as well. So she lived by herself despite being 16 or 17, and she was like, oh yeah, it's you know, kind of nice. And I'm fascinated by the idea of living by myself, you know, as a 16-year-old probably would be. So I'm like, yeah, let's go over to your house. Let's do that. Let's see what it's like over there. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, totally can do that. So I go to her house. She thinks I'm judging her freezer because, you know, like she shows me and that she's like, there's 3 fish fingers in there, and like that's it. It's just empty otherwise. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. And she's like, oh no, it's fine. It's like, it's a joke. It's funny. You're meant to laugh. And I'm like, okay, that's a funny freezer you got there. So a little bit weird, like seeing a house the first time. I try not to be judgy when I look at people's houses, but I guess maybe I give people looks that are judgy or something. But either way, at the end of that, I asked like, hey, would you like to be my girlfriend perhaps? And she's like, oh, I wanted to ask the same of you. So we're officially dating. It's kind of awkward that even getting together part of it, but it gets a lot worse than that, because on the like second time we like go out as a couple outside of school or whatever, because you know, in school we talk a lot more, and you know, like maybe do the arm thing every now and then or whatever. But the first time we go, the second like kind of official date outside of school or whatever, what we do is I'm like, oh yeah, let's just, you know, go for a walk and see the place. Because I think going for a walk, good way to get some conversation in. Maybe it's a bad idea because it sounds like you don't know what you're doing. It's the most generic free thing you can come up with. But we decide to go for a walk, and midway through while we're talking about whatever we're talking about, I tried to do like the arm thing, and the arm thing goes because, you know, okay, for the record, I know you probably just like, it's easier to just hold hands or something, but I should assume, like, you know what, the easiest way to, like, show this and, like, you know, do, like, the boyfriendy, girlfriendy thing is to do the arm round like this, except she's a lot shorter than me. She's, like, 5 foot or something, so, like, my arm's all the way down there, and, like, she's not short to do it either, so, like, my arm's going up and down like this, and I don't want to just immediately admit defeat, like, oh, yeah, I could have just 5 seconds later been like, oh, that doesn't work, ha 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 ha. But rather than playing it off, laughing it off, I'm like, no, I'm sticking to this. You can't give up a maneuver like this halfway through. So for like 10 minutes or something, I'm doing that, and it's uncomfortable for me. I imagine it's uncomfortable for her, but you stick with it regardless. And again, this is a valuable lesson here. Just laugh things off sometimes. You don't have to commit to something entirely, or, you know, uncommit and then look bad. Just laugh and be like, ha 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 ha, isn't that kind of a funny thing? But no, I stuck with it the entire time, and eventually she's like, oh yeah, rather than just walking around, do you want to go back to my house and watch TV or something? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. So we go back to her house, and I actually like see the living room for the first time, and it's really, really interesting because it's kind of a sad place. Again, I'm sure it's not her fault that it was sad, but there's just like a chair, like you know, like one you might see in school that's wider than average for a library, and then there is like a TV on like a bookshelf or something. So yeah, it's kind of like a TV stand, but not quite. Basically, we go back to her place, and it's like you know, it's a pretty small kind of fish place, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's you know, watch whatever's on there together. So just keep in mind that this chair is actually not quite big enough for both of us. So like I have to sit on there, and then she's like sitting slightly, you know, we have to like squeeze up together like this, and that's like, again, that's room for like cute relationship stuff. This is like, oh yeah, this is a dream for, you know, anyone who's like competent and aware of what they're doing. But for me, it's like, okay, so we're awkwardly kind of both sat here. I'm not 100% comfortable. I'm like a little bit off the edge. But again, just don't say anything. Just play it off like, oh yeah, I'm so comfortable here. What about you, right? And we watched this TV, which was tiny. It was one of those huge box TVs, you know, the ones a CRT with like the huge box behind it, and it had subtitles turned on all the time. So I'm not sure what the correct etiquette is. Do you laugh when you read the words? Because, you know, I can't not read those words. Or do you laugh when they say it on the screen? So there's like there's a little bit of like not quite flowingness in terms of like, oh yeah, that was funny, but I laughed too early, and you know, all that sort of stuff. So we watched TV for like a solid 2 hours or something, and the whole time it's like slow motion. Because again, bear in mind, halfway through this, again, I'm like, you know, the traditional like, you know, thing you learn from movies where you go, ooh, oh, you know, my arms land around you, and then like you hook it around a little bit more, and so on and so forth. I'm doing that the whole time, and that's like all my focus. I barely have any focus on the TV show, because it's just like, okay, I've gotta not mess this one up entirely, because you know, it's already gone a little bit roughly so far, and I'm like, you know, don't mess this up. Focus on this 100%. Which, of course, for the record, don't focus on something that's meant to be natural 100%, because you will do like too much. Like there, you know, slow, subtle, just back of the mind movements, way better than front of the mind 100% focus, and you know, I learned that right there. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm just moving my arm non-stop trying to constantly reposition, barely focusing on the show, so I like miss a few kind of key points of like, so why is she there? And it's like, oh, this just happened there. Were you not watching? And I'm like, I totally was. It was just kind of slow. So something like 2 hours of that passed. We watched 2 hours of TV. And again, I personally think that the rule should be when you're watching a audiovisual program, you generally shouldn't be like kind of talking too much, because like that's my take on things. So we barely speak too much in this 2 hours, which again, probably not a good idea, but again, didn't seem too wrong to me. Probably did to her though. And I'm like, oh yeah, so you know, what else do you have around here? Kind of hinting like, let's just see what else is going on here. And she's like, oh, I have this huge music box. Again, it's a super old CD player, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Where'd you get all those music from? And she's like, oh yeah, my sister gave me them all. This is my favorite song actually. And again, another super bad move I made here was to like be like, oh, I actually know that song. It was a song I listened to a fair bit, but it's like, oh, why you shouldn't listen to it? It's just too sad. It's because it's the song is called like Broken Heart, and the basic message is like, oh, you know, things get better, things get better. No, they don't. It's so terrible. You just live with it. It's terrible. And it's like, wait, that's not a good lesson for a song. And again, so I criticize her favorite song is the point I'm trying to raise here. And she's like, no, I don't really think that. So there's conflict or whatever. And I'm like, oh, how about we watch the TV again? You know, there's a brand new episode of something we both care about on there right now. How I Met Your Mother, I think it was. And it's like, yeah, let's do that. So we awkwardly, again, retransition back into squeeze together on a chair mode. And after like an hour of that, I'm like, okay, I need to leave at some point in the next like I had to leave like half an hour ago, and it's like, okay, I gotta leave, and before I leave, I want to make sure that I get like a, you know, like a kiss thing going on here, because, you know, that makes sense, like, we're girlfriend, whatever, we can't just not ever kiss or whatever, because especially if I'm around her place, we've already cuddled, if you will, and watched TV, okay, gotta get that goodbye kiss in there, but it's in my head that I can't do that before I leave. I've got to do it as like a leaving thing, because the goodnight kiss or whatever, that's like a thing that I know I should do, and it gives you the escape mechanism if it all goes down, you know, wrongly, because I'm a little bit scared at that point, like, what if this does go badly? It's, you know, you don't want to live with the consequences of a bad event, so I'm like, okay, I've got to do this goodbye kiss at the door. And I'm like, okay then, or, you know, I've got to do it now, and then immediately say I've got to go. So I was like, oh, I've gotta be going, you know, Ashley, you know, like, fairly soon. And she's like, oh, really, yeah, and she doesn't react to that one. And I'm like, yeah, actually, like, really soon, like, I kind of had to be home, like, you know, like, a few minutes ago or whatever. And she's like, oh, okay. And then we, like, stare at each other for a little bit, and then she's, you know, like, a solid 30 seconds or something, because I'm just, like, trying to build up the mental courage to kiss, and again, I can't do it. I just, my brain is not ready to do it. I'm like, oh, what if this goes wrong? Because, again, for some reason, this is terrible advice, but, like, when your brain needs to do something, don't think about it, really. Just, like, give yourself the instructions to just do it. Just give yourself the authorization, because it's better to mess up trying to do something too hard or too better, rather than just being like, should I do this? What could go wrong? What could go wrong is a question you don't ask when it comes to, like, you know, dating or your first kiss or whatever, because you're just going to sit there forever being like, oh my god, if that could happen, what if I miss? What if I go for the eyeball? What if, all these things? And it's like, no, don't think that. But that's all I was thinking. So for 30 seconds, I think I'm staring at her, or maybe it just felt like that, and then she's like, could I kiss you? Like, she asked, like, nicely. Maybe that's a thing that they've learned on the internet. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was actually just about to do that, which, terrible thing to say, but I thought it'd be like a funny way to play off those last 30 seconds. And so then we start kissing, and again, this is like first kiss between us or whatever, and I'm really unfamiliar with the game at this point. I'll just admit that this is not something I've done before, and I'm like, okay then. So, you know, you start with the lips or whatever, and then, you know, you presumably move in with the mouth or something. So basically what I'm saying here is this kiss was the most uncontrolled, I don't even know thing going on ever, because I'm like, okay, so I know there's meant to be some motion with the mouth, and there's like a tongue thing going on there, and then like playing with the tongues. I know now that like when you do tongue kissing, it's just like you got to accept that like it's weird and that's like a coolish thing. But I was like, why is this weird? Are we meant to just be like whacking each other in the tongue, or like, you know, do I hold it down? What do I do? I don't know. And then I assume she's in the same situation, because she's just kind of following me to a certain point, and then she like, I don't know. Basically, what I'm saying is it went kind of badly, and you might think, oh yeah, that was like a short kiss that went badly. That's fine. That's a normal thing to go down with. But let me tell you why this is so bad. It's because I was like, you know, after like 5 minutes, I pull away, because 5 minutes is a long, long time. I realize now, well, I'm like, you know, that sounds about right, because I don't know when the appropriate time to go back is, and then I look at her, and she looks a little bit sad on her face, maybe because 5 minutes was more than she was expecting, and I'm like, oh, maybe that must mean that she doesn't want this to end right now. So I go back in for another like 8 minutes or something. Again, I can tell it was so long because it was like half an episode of How I Met Your Mother. Like, it was all the way from the first ad break to the middle one, you know, from when this started to when it ended, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't focus on what's going on here right now. I'm just in this moment, and I have no idea what's going on. I'm just trying my best to like keep this being a consistent thing, and I know in my heart, like, this isn't going quite right. I'm liking it a little bit, but something's feeling a little bit wrong here, and, you know, probably was her or whatever. So after that 8 minutes, after like this almost or roughly 10-minute kiss, like 13 minutes or 12, something like 12. Again, it's start of the show, like the credits were playing as it started, to the middle ad break. So very, very, very long time here. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I have to go though. It was, you know, great to be here or whatever. And she's like, oh, I'll walk you to the door or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. That is basically, rather than like doing anything else while I'm there, rather than like, you know, talking about whatever just happened or having any form of like conversation, I just leave it. I leave the awkward there as like, pretend it doesn't exist, and then it must not exist, right? And I'm like, oh, I actually, you know, I have to go. Sorry, goodbye. And I'm like, in my head, it's like fight or flight. I gotta go right now. So like, oh, you know, my shoes are on. I'm walking down the door, you know, down the stairs already, and oh, here's the door. Goodbye. It was really great. You know, whatever. And then she's like, oh yeah, it really was too. And then I literally, I think, I don't know if I even wait for her to turn around. I run again. I've got it set in my head that I needed to leave right off that kiss. So like, I'm just like, oh, it's gone down the stairs, and like, okay, goodbye. And then like run away. It was like, you know, again, like, I don't know what it was, but like a part of my brain really was like, get away from that, right? You know, fight or flight. My brain picked flight. I was like, get away, get away, get away. So yeah, basically what I'm saying here is I had the most awkward first date ever, because we hung out for a bit in the most strange apartment in the strangest way. I focused way too much on everything I was doing, to the point of making these little painful moments, and then we kissed for 13 minutes, which is not a normal amount, I now know, especially not for a first kiss of someone, especially not using the tongue or whatever for the very first time, and Then after all of that, I ran away, probably with her seeing, because even if she didn't see me like do it like in person, like her window would have seen the street. So what I'm saying here is all of that was pretty bad, but it taught me the lesson that, like, you know what, it's a million times better just to play anything off as fun or awkward to be like, ah, yeah. Because if you just like try and pretend like that was your intention, then it doesn't usually work. You can't usually just pretend like, oh, that was fine, because maybe they blame themselves, or maybe they blame you, or maybe they forget it or something. But again, always funny to just accept like, awkwardness is a funny thing, because otherwise that will happen to you again. I'm pleased to admit that it's only happened. I've had some bad awkward dating experiences, but it gets better as you get experience, probably, or maybe you're just awkward forever. But if you can admit that, if you can admit that something's gone wrong, then it makes things better. And maybe that's the lesson here for you. If you're scared, because as a teenager, I was terrified of, like, how the heck do you do this stuff? Especially because, like, you know, it seems like as a teenager, like, oh, everyone's doing this all the time. Like, every weekend, everyone's just doing stuff together. I think one of the key lessons is just to be like, you know, there's gonna be some pain, and just accept that, and just accept that, you know, maybe they're gonna have some pain too, and most people are so busy focused on their own little version of that, that they won't focus on you. I don't think that, you know, for the record, the girl never spoke to me again. Like, to this day, we ran into each other, and she said hi to my friend, didn't say hi to me, like 2 years later or something. She lives in a different part of the country now. She has her whole own thing going on, and yeah, it's kind of interesting, because this is a good example of there's a happy ending to this story, because we never met ever again. But like, I'm sure to her that was just the most awkward thing she'd ever done, and she couldn't face me. Or maybe she was looking at that like, what the heck is this guy? I need to never say hi to him again. But yeah, she was really embarrassed to speak to me, maybe because of me, or maybe because she thought that was her fault. I'm not sure, I'm just saying, and I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Give it a like, because if you don't, my wife and kids will die. That's just how it happens. You might think you don't have a wife and kids, toycat. You don't know me. You don't know who dies. And make sure you hit the bell if you're new to the channel, because that's how you see these videos daily on your homepage. You might think, well, I mean, if I want to see your videos, then I'll watch them, right? But the trick with YouTube is you turn on notifications, and then hopefully YouTube sends you the video. Clicking subscribe is almost, you know, pointless unless you use the sub tab. But if you click notifications, it's like a super subscription, and even if you turn off notifications on the YouTube app, which you can do if you really want to, then you'll still see my videos higher up as a result of that. And it's something I recommend, because I like it when people watch my videos. Fun fact. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something from the awkward story, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.